Live from downtown Bedford, New Hampshire, this is the Fantasy Champion Show. I'm Nick Anastos, along with my good friend Bob Morin. We're live at the studios at Castle Hill Media in downtown Bedford. And let me tell you something, we have quite a show on tap for you here. It's the Fantasy Champion Show, part of the Fantasy Champions Network. Log on to Facebook at the Fantasy Champion Show. It's live. It's right at your fingertips. It's hot. We're ready to roll here in episode number 1. It's the maiden voyage here at the studios at Castle Hill Media. Bob, what do you think of the new digs?
Oh, this place is unbelievable. The opportunity that we have right now, it's exciting.
It's lights, camera, action,
everyone's
for sure.
Excited about it. Everyone we talk to. And I'm looking forward to a lot of talk. A
lot of talk, but let's get down to business here. This is the draft special. Now, of course, it's late August. Drafts are happening around the country, whether it was last weekend, this upcoming weekend, next week, what have you. Fantasy is on everyone's fingertips, and we're here to give you the draft advice that you need. And we're going to do it in a little bit of a unique fashion as well. We are, first of all, I think we need to reintroduce ourselves to the audience. Longtime fantasy experts. We were in at the ground floor before it was popular, before it was a trend. We were pounding the lunchroom tables, keeping score by hand, looking up box scores in newspapers. Yeah. Old school. Bob is now close to a 20-year vet, is a 20-year vet, excuse me. My bad.
In the league, yeah.
My fault. I'm no spring chicken either. This will be my 15th season. So we've got experience, we've got advice, we've got what you need, and it's right here on the Fantasy Champion Show, live from the studios at Castle Hill Media. Give us a call, 603-785-3542. We'll take your call live on air and answer any questions you may have that are fantasy related. Over the next 55 or so minutes, we're going to do this. We're going to have a draft order. A live draft, our draft. First of all, we've been in a dynasty league with 10 keepers for the last, 11 seasons now. Our draft is coming up on Sunday, so we want to get ourselves in kind of draft mode, get ourselves in fantasy shape, so to speak, and help you out along the way as well. I'm Nick Anastos again. This is Bob Morin, veterans, and we're going to break it down like this. First of all, we're ESPN guys. We are ESPN fantasy guys in terms of the league that we do, that kind of a thing. We know we've experimented before with Yahoo. We've done CBS. We've been around a little bit. Right now, at this point in time, we roll with ESPN, and it's treated us well over the last couple of years.
Yeah, no problems with ESPN at all. Obviously, the insiders are great there.
Yep.
A lot of good information. Yeah, no problem so far. But like you touched on, I've been in the CBS and the Yahoo, all great leagues. But I think as far
you like ESPN the best?
As far as free leagues go, I would say ESPN is the way to go.
Yeah, so ESPN, good stuff. Our draft works like this. We keep 10 every year. We held 20. So we would cut 10. Yeah. That means that not only are there obviously guys who are on teams last year that are available in the next year's draft, i.e. this weekend, but we have a closed waiver wire policy as well. Now, a lot of leagues are open wire. We have an unusual kind of a policy where we overdraft at the beginning. We cut down to roster size for opening week 1. And then the difference there of about, 50, 60 players is the pool for the next year. Anyone outside that pool who didn't get drafted is ineligible. What that does is a couple of things. It allows guys who break out of the blue. We've seen it in the past from Kurt Warner, Marcus Colston, guys like that, Peyton Hillis. They are obviously not being able to pick up. They're ineligible. They're outside the closed waiver. So then, therefore, they're high picks. They're basically first rounders the next year around. So it deepens the draft a little bit that way, and obviously you get your rookies as well. So that being said, 10-team league, 10 keepers. Theoretically, your top 100 are off the board before the draft begins.
Yeah, like just to touch on a little bit, as far as that Kurt Warner, we've seen it with Tom Brady. There's been a few big-name players that, because of the rule, it's worked out great where a guy can't. Kurt Warner was able to get picked up. I don't think we had. Did we have the closed waivers the whole time? Yeah, we have.
No, the Warner rule is where it developed.
Okay.
And that was why.
Yes.
Right.
Well, and also in my league.
So someone, again, that year that he came out of the blue with the Rams, the owner scooped him up with open waivers and then just took the league by storm and won it. So in order to prevent something like that happened, the ultimate of bailout packages, so to speak, we have the closed waiver wire. It deepens the draft the next year. It allows the bottom feeder teams, the higher picks, to have their crack at those players plus the rookies. So what we're going to do here is go through our draft order. And we're going to give you a simulation of the first 2 rounds, kind of a mock draft kind of a thing. When each team is up on the clock, first we'll give you their 10 keepers from last year. And then we'll give our thoughts on who's going to be selected with that pick.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fun right now. Yeah, we're going to just see who. There's going to be some questions, obviously, there with 10 and 11 and 12. We might have to.
We'll have our disagreements
discuss about it. Yeah.
As usual here on the Fantasy Champion Show, we'll iron it out. Give us a call, 603-785-3542. You can find us live on Facebook at the Fantasy Champion Show. Let's start with Autumn Wood. Now, they were a team that won a historically low 1 game last season. Finished 1-13. To be fair, new ownership. The previous owner had kind of left the roster in flames, left the place in ruins. Our boy Smith Beals comes over, takes over the team, needs more than a year to turn it around. As a result, in year 1, he goes 1-13. But he's been busy. He was busy during the season making trades, trying to acquire picks, primarily for this year's draft, and then he kind of parlayed those picks into high first-round picks this year. So he's in a good position, I think. He has 2 first-rounders, including the first overall pick.
Yeah, a few questionable moves last year. I think he could have been a little different.
There's always questionable moves, though.
Yeah, but, that's another show. But,
yeah.
As far as his draft goes, I think he's set up, pretty nicely for a team in his position.
Well, how's his roster look right now with the 10?
Well, I think his only quarterback that he really should keep, he has Josh Freeman with Tampa Bay, Matt Castle, and Matt Leinart. So he's going to keep a quarterback.
Yeah.
You have to. So I'm going to say Freeman.
It's got to be Freeman.
Freeman's definitely one of his keepers. We move right along to the running backs. We have Ahmad Bradshaw with the Giants, Thomas Jones, who's not even on a team right now.
Right.
No Sean Moreno, who, he has question marks all over him. Ronnie Brown could have moved himself, depending on Matthews' injury. That's an interesting player to talk about.
Right now, Matthews, by the way, still out, so Brown in. That doesn't necessarily mean, though, you expect the same production. But again, this is a thin roster, so
not at all. Then
Brown might at least be in contention.
We have Ryan Williams, who he picked last year with his first ever pick as a fantasy owner in our league.
Yeah.
And obviously that we drafted
and how'd that turn out?
Before the injury.
Yeah. So, unfortunate, as if the odds weren't stacked against Autumn Wood to begin with. Yeah. Smith Beals has to go out and deal with an early injury.
Yeah, and then to just round out his running backs, he has Justin Forsett with Houston, who I don't think he's going to see much action there. So
he's third string.
I would say his keepers, we got Ahmad Bradshaw, he's a definite.
Yeah.
And then
in addition to Freeman, there's
Ryan
2.
Williams.
Yeah,
he's gonna
3.
Keep, obviously, so that's 3.
Moreno probably.
Moreno, yeah.
You have upside.
Invested in Moreno.
And young upside and a good offense.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have Johnny Knox with Chicago, Dwayne Bowe, Kansas City, Branch with New England, Greg Olson at tight end. Other receivers, we have Meacham, Little, Antonio Brown, Jason Avant, and Anquan Bolden. Oh, he actually has James Starks as well, so.
All right, so let's say Starks, Bradshaw, what are the backs? Moreno?
Yeah, we'll go with Moreno.
So that's 3?
Yeah, then we go to the receivers. We'll go Dwayne Bowes is obvious as his best receiver.
Bolden.
Bolden.
Meacham.
Going to keep Little.
Yeah.
Little was a high draft pick last year. I think he took him in the 2nd round. And remember, we keep 10.
So it's a feeble roster, bottom line, here on the Fantasy Champion Show, and there's plenty of work to do for Autumn Wood. The good news, again, he has 2 first-rounders, including this first pick in the mock draft, and that will be the obvious, Trent Richardson. Really not a whole lot of explanation necessary there. Now, he has been slowed in camp with an injury to this point, but it looks like at least he'll be back, I think, for week 1, right? Or week 2.
I don't think they're saying...
I think week 1 is questionable at this point.
I don't think that they're saying he's going to miss any time, though. It is questionable.
But he's a beast at 2:30. He's going to run people over. Cleveland needs him. They're going to milk the cow. And that immediately improves, I think, Autumn Wood's backfield.
I think.
Because it adds some power to the top of that chart. Now you got Bradshaw at the 2. That's not bad. And then depending on what happens with Moreno, who's a backup now behind McGahee in Denver, it's at least a start, I think. And Richardson, he's the best rookie on the board, no question.
Yeah.
He's what, a top 15 right now?
He's going
running back. Maybe that's what we've seen. I'd probably put him in that 15 to 20 range right now.
He's going number 1 in all drafts that are like this. Especially with
that are rookie heavy, right? Yeah, keeper heavy, dynasty heavy.
Yeah, he's definitely the number 1 pick. Him and Andrew Luck, but I've read a lot, looked at a lot of statistics with drafts already starting, and Richardson's the favorite right now as number 1 pick in every.
And a solid pick.
Format.
So right down, we'll have Richardson go number 1 here. This is again a mock draft for the Players Club, the 11th annual draft coming up this Sunday. This is the Fantasy Champion Show. I'm Nick Anastos along with Bob Morin. You can find us on Facebook at the Fantasy Champion Show. Pick number 2, Richardson off the board. Things get a little more interesting. Now first of all, we got to tell you a little bit about this drafter.
He's a hero.
He's a hero. One of Bob's favorite owners to do business with.
Yeah, I do a lot of business with him.
We call him the Colonel, Mike Daniels. His team Smell My Mustache. He's got 3 rings, which is the most. Problem is his team hasn't even not made the playoffs in about 5 or 6 years, but they haven't been relevant since their last title in 06. And Mr. Daniels, who likes to flap the jaws a little bit, has a lot of answering to do in a lot of cases.
He's been at the drafts, but I look back, I don't even know if he's really there. He's there. His body's there. I just don't think his brain is. And I'm not just saying it to be funny.
He takes a while too. He's one of those guys who takes his time.
There. He's in another planet.
So anyway, bottom line is it's really a wild card, no matter where he is in the draft order.
Yeah.
On what he's going to do. So here's how we'll break it down. Let's first of all go over his keepers, because he's got good receivers. Now he's a guy who likes to, and I'm sure there's one of these in your league as well, one of those guys who loves wide receivers, overvalues wide receivers, is enamored with wide receivers. And to his credit, he's had some good ones, at least in the past. His roster right now is young and athletic. It's young more than anything, with a lot of potential.
Yeah, he's got a lot of young guys. I just look at, his quarterbacks right now. Real dicey. It's tough.
Dicey.
3 guys that are on the cusp of keeper. In a lot of leagues, it's like.
But not ideal starters,
no,
unless you talk about Schaub. And if he could play 16 weeks,
if he can be healthy and Houston is running on all cylinders, Schaub is a top 10 quarterback in fantasy football any given year.
So I think he's a definite no-brainer keeper then.
Yeah, I'd have to say he would be, but we're talking about the owner that we're talking about right now, and he might go with Bradford because he did invest in Bradford.
I think he's going with both.
Yeah, that's what I would say right now, just guessing. It'd be Schaub and Bradford. Sanchez I would be surprised if he's starting for the New York Jets, coming up.
That's another show, though.
In a few weeks, so... But no, his running backs, they get a little better. He has a lot of young guys here. I think these 3 right now I'm going to name off are keepers. Jonathan Stewart with Carolina.
Yeah.
CJ
Who
Spiller.
I'm a fan of. I've always been a fan of.
Yeah, it's just there's so much there.
Not enough balls to go around.
It really sucks
Carolina.
to own any Carolina running back. I own D'Angelo Williams, and it's going to be rough.
Yeah.
Play the hot hand, it's just like last year. So CJ Spiller with the Bills, I think he has tons of potential. And Ben Tate. Ben Tate is...
Probably the best backup in the league, I think, at this point.
And then his other guys, I think he's got to cut ties with Javad Best, I think.
Yeah.
Because he's keeping Jamal Charles, who was on injury last year.
And Best, by the way, what's his latest?
Still not cleared to play.
Right.
Concussion-like
syndrome or whatever.
Yeah, put on the PUP,
symptoms.
And he's a mess. So I wouldn't touch Best in any of.
Plus, he's a little too small for my personal taste as well.
He really is a pony.
Yeah. He's not a horse, he's a pony.
Yeah, he is a pony. Then we go to the receivers, though. I like his receivers. He has Hakeem Nicks with the Giants. We've all seen what he can do when healthy. Another question mark with the health. A.J. Green, who has a ton of potential.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be
I like him.
top top 3 wide receiver in the league.
He's a smart player for his age. He's going into his second year. He's got a wingspan. He can jump.
I like his quarterback that's throwing to him. Get him the ball, and
he made an impact right away last year. Big impact. Yeah. What was his numbers last year?
He had 1,057 yards, receiving 7 touchdowns.
As a rookie.
As a rookie. 65 receptions, too. So it's not bad. A good average, as far as yards.
And he was a big deal coming out of Georgia, too.
Yeah, another, like we said.
High pick in the NFL, first rounder. So.
And he picked him
early last year.
Exactly.
In our draft, second or third overall, I think.
Which I think is going to work out for him.
Yeah.
We're talking about
that's a good pick.
That's one of his good picks he's had. So we'll see. But usually he'll go and trade him. So we'll see what
eventually
happens. But as far as other receivers and tight ends go, I don't really see him keeping. Maybe. How many we got so far? 1, 2. We got 3. 4,
the 2
5,
quarterbacks.
6, 7, 8. So I still have 2 more keepers we need to find on here. So he's going to have to keep another tight end, I'm thinking, or another running back. Maybe Bernard Scott or Best.
Well, he keeps Best, I would say. You counted Jamal Charles?
Yeah. Maybe a tight end. Owen Daniels,
maybe Emmanuel Sanders if Mike Wallace continues to hold out. That's a guy who can stretch the field in Pittsburgh, clearly.
Emmanuel Sanders didn't have a great year last year, but like you said, if Mike Wallace is out, opportunity.
So those are the Smell My Mustache keepers. And this is, of course, the Fantasy Champion Show as we continue to provide the mock draft for our personal Players Club League. You can find it on ESPN. You can find us, of course, on Facebook at the Fantasy Champion Show. 603-785-3542, the phone number. We welcome your questions as well here in the studios at Castle Hill Media. So, number 1 overall goes Richardson to Autumn Wood. And we just gave you Smell My Mustache as keepers. He needs a back, I would think. He needs a quarterback as well, even though he's got 2 kind of backup guys, 1B guys on the roster. He's still, I think
I don't know about quarterback for him. I know we talked about it, but you've heard some stuff.
I've heard some rumblings about.
But I don't believe a word he says ever. So I would not be surprised to see him take. I would say Doug Martin is who I think he should take.
Wow,
but
that would anger the next pick.
Yes,
the team with the 3rd overall pick.
It's going to happen a lot in all leagues.
See, I don't know. I know he's been high on Colts rookie Andrew Luck. And he was high on him at college. He liked him at Stanford, even back in 2010, before last year. He needs a quarterback, Bob. He's got Bradford, who's got no weapons, who's got an injury history, and then and Matt Schaub obviously is a walking potential injury waiting to happen.
He did invest in Bradford last year, though.
This is a young team rebuilding. You throw Luck into that mix.
I'll give him Luck because he does need it, because I've heard some rumblings about Bradford.
So we'll take him at his word.
A lingering injury with that high ankle sprain that he had last year, and it could bother him this year. It's something to keep an eye on and an ear on for sure, because he does have injury history now.
All right, so let's say it's Andrew Luck, second on the board.
I'll give him that.
We'll give him a golf clap.
Yep.
For sticking to his word.
See if he brings a jersey and music again.
We have Richardson, 1 overall. Again, best running back available in any league right now. Best rookie, period. Never mind rookie running back. Gone first. And again, keep in mind, folks, if you're just tuning in, this is a mock draft for our league. It's an 11-year dynasty league with theoretically the top 100 players taken off the board. So, in light of that, we see Luck off the board at second, Richardson first. Now 3 is up, and I think this is pretty easy for the Clingers, but first let's take a look at their team. And again, a little bit of history here with each of these teams. We want you to get familiar with the mind of the potential owner.
Why we're picking these people and whatnot.
Clingers, a team, an expansion team that joined the league 6 years ago. I think this is year 7 for them.
Yeah, and he hasn't smelt the playoffs yet.
Has not smelt the playoffs in 6-7 years. In real life, would have gotten a long time ago. But, we're not going to throw anyone out of the league, especially friends of ours. So he's still in the league. Now, listen, this guy actually knows his football. And I know this because we tend to draft similarly, him and I. We both kind of value the same things in players. He knows his stuff. He's had some tough breaks. He always seems like he's got young talent. Seems like his team has been young and ready to burst since it came on the scene 6 years ago. Now, again, this team still looks young and with some sexy guys, top-heavy guys on the roster.
And he has a good team. He really needs a good draft, and he needs to get that depth to take it to the next level. I think that's where he's lacked. He has had some bad luck, some injuries. He just needs a solid season, and he definitely could be a playoff team. It breaks my heart to say it, but he could be in the playoffs.
Well, let's look at his quarterbacks. Now, Phillip Rivers is the obvious keeper there, right?
Yeah,
and he's got Rivers and Bryan.
He's got four good quarterbacks. Palmer, is not a keeper by any means, but you could argue Cutler, Matt Ryan, and Phillip Rivers all keepers.
You could argue Cutler. I don't think on this team.
He has Marshall though. He could like that connection. I know he's not going to start, but
I don't think he's keeping.
I don't think he is either. It'd be a waste of.
I wouldn't keep him.
I wouldn't either.
So let's say he keeps 2 quarterbacks, and again in a 10 team. 10-keeper league, 2 quarterbacks.
It's the norm, pretty much.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
Yeah. So, we're going to go Phillip Rivers with San Diego, Matt Ryan with Atlanta. Then it gets to his backs. He has Reggie Bush with Miami, Blount with Tampa Bay, McFadden with Oakland, Tolbert in Carolina in that mess.
Is that 6?
Yeah, Jason Snelling, Danny Woodhead, Delonte Carter. Out of those guys, he's keeping Bush.
Yeah. Coming off a career year.
Blount, are you going to keep him?
I think he keeps him because of who he's going to take here in the third.
Who the third pick is. Yeah. And Darren McFadden is a no-brainer. I think McFadden's his best running back.
Yeah.
Tolbert, I don't think you keep him.
No, it's a fullback.
Snelling, you can't keep. Woodhead, I'm not keeping.
No.
And I have a hard time keeping Delonte Carter, even though he did draft him last year.
He's not a keeper.
Yeah, I would not keep him. I would get sick in my mouth if I would be honest with you. I'd have a bad feeling.
And I wouldn't blame you. Yeah. This is the Fantasy Champion Show, by the way. We're continuing to break down the clingers and our good friend Mitch, his roster. And this is all part of our mock draft, the real deal, coming, by the way, on Sunday. So we're trying to get ourselves in shape as well. It's like a holiday, Bob. It really is. You wake up early. You're energized.
It's like it's like Christmas and my birthday all together. It's a great day.
So who's you got for wide receivers?
Wide receivers, we got Reggie Wayne. He's an obvious keeper.
Yeah.
With Indianapolis. Roddy White, another obvious. He's got his Matt Ryan connection, and Brandon Marshall. And then, obviously, Julio Jones is going to
also with the Falcons. He's got 3 Falcons. He's got a monopoly there.
He does, and they're all going to be keepers. And then Vernon Davis will be the only tight end that he would keep. But that's pretty solid, I think. Solid 10.
So we're going to assume that, again, Doug Martin is there. And Martin, of course, the rookie with Tampa Bay, a small guy, but he runs hard. A lot of Ray Rice comparisons, believe it or not, with this guy. So we'll see. It looks like initially the situation with the Bucs, and we'll find out more on Friday as the preseason continues.
The Pats are playing them, so that's going to be fun.
So we're going to take a look at that running back situation and see that at least initially, or right now at least, what I think they're going to do is split. Now, because again, Blunt's the bigger guy. Blunt might vulture some of those touchdown carries.
That's what he's going to do.
And again, if he's already got Blunt on the roster, I'm a big handcuff guy.
Yeah.
Love the handcuff.
All day long.
Especially when it involves a rookie running back. You got time to let him develop.
Yep.
And again, he's told me off air that if Martin's there, it's done.
Yeah,
he's in the bag. And that's obvious.
Yeah, and I think I have a little difference in opinion as far as the Blount and
well, we welcome differences of opinion.
Martin,
We've been getting along too well here so far.
I think that Blount is not going to be as big of a role as far as yards go. He will get touchdowns, I think.
Well, he tapered off last year.
Yeah, and I've heard
after a tremendous 2010 campaign.
Heard a lot of bad things too coming out of that place, out of Tampa Bay.
But he's still young and he's big.
He has an attitude and he's lazy.
Well, yeah, that's always been the knock on him. And remember, this guy is the guy who once snuffed that player, punched the Boise State player in the head in week 1. That was back in 2009.
He's a punk.
And his draft stock took a plummet because he was talking about a first, second-round pick in the NFL draft. He gets taken 6th as kind of a punishment type thing. But, yeah, there's been a lot of less than glowing reports on Mr. Blount down there in Tampa from an attitude perspective.
I think Doug Martin, though, I would take
and new coach, by the way, with Coach Schiano.
He's not taking it.
Martin's a hand-picked guy.
Yep.
They're obviously grooming him to take over. I'm saying for week 1, to have Blount already on the roster.
It's perfect.
It's perfect.
It works out. I'm just saying I think
you just don't like Blunt.
Well, no, I don't mind him. I just think that Doug Martin is going to have a better year. That's all my argument. That's all I'm giving our viewers out there, a little opinion as far as my opinion goes. That I think I would
you like Martin over
Doug
Blunt.
Martin.
Yeah, I got you. 603-785-3544. If I knew my own phone number, we'd really be getting somewhere. 603-785-3542. This is the Fantasy Champion Show. You can find us on Facebook each and every week at the Fantasy Champion Show. And, of course, we encourage your calls as well. We continue to break down the Players Club mock draft round 1. First 3 players we predict off the board, all rookies. Richardson to Autumn Wood, Luck to Smell My Mustache, and then the Stage 5 clingers select Doug Martin of Tampa. No surprise there, Bob. We've seen it for now 11 years. Rookies usually take up at least probably 3 of the first 4 or 5 picks.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm looking forward to this next team because I think this team's he could be in a mess.
Really?
I think so.
Well, all right, here we go. This is the S-faced.
He is right around the area where one of his big boys goes down, like Calvin. If Calvin Johnson got hurt, he would plummet.
Well, he's got a few big boys. Now, here's the deal though.
Backs are declining.
Here's the deal with S-faced. They're a team that doesn't say much. They don't make a lot of noise. They don't make a lot of moves.
Hard to trade with.
They don't make a lot of moves, but they're always in the mix.
Yep.
And this is a guy that finds his team usually in the championship game every 2 or 3 years. That's the kind of owner we're talking about, the quiet but deadly type.
Yeah. Hard to trade with. What we're trying to do here is
I don't know about hard, although I don't think I've ever made a deal with him. Exactly. He might be the only owner in the league I've never dealt with.
It can be difficult, but he's not an idiot. I'm not, no disrespect at all. He's just hard to trade with because he really values his players. And when we're talking about these guys, we're trying to give you guys examples of people I'm sure in your leagues exactly like this. There's a person in every league. That probably fits.
Everybody's got a role to play, for sure.
So it makes it a league. It's great.
So, anyway, S-Faced, owned by K. Hardon, likes to kind of play it safe, I think, too, with his draft picks.
He can be a guy that can draft kind of
abnormal,
not abnormally, but a little bit.
Right.
Kind of like the last team we just looked at.
Yeah, I guess he kind of.
Excuse me, team 2.
I guess he kind of can give you a little bit of both. He'll either take somebody that you expect him to take, or he'll take a guy that might be lower on your radar.
Too early.
Right. But it sometimes it works out.
Yep.
Now, he's usually got a bunch of good quarterbacks. He's usually got some good running backs. He's usually deep, and he's just usually solid. I mean, he's that owner. Problem is, at least with this year's roster, it looks like some of those stars that have been so reliant. Like, picture your typical LaDainian Tomlinson owner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody with star power that just can come in and just some way or another roll you over. But at some point, just like in life, there's a point where you hit the wall and then you start to come back down to earth a little bit here. And I think, again, looking at this roster, very veteran heavy, full of guys who can still give you some pop, but their better days might be behind them.
Yeah, I look at his running backs especially. We'll start off with his keepers right now here. Cam Newton and Michael Vickers, only quarterbacks. They're both keepers.
And a solid.
Both keepers. Both guys that like to move around and are one hit away. They're those guys that are, I'm not saying Cam Newton's injury prone because he's not.
And he's a beast at 6'5", 260.
He's just like Vic. You can take a pop and you're done. And he's got 2 guys. He needs some insurance in that position, but we'll get to that later. Chris Johnson obviously had an awful year last year. He's a keeper.
Although he had kind of a...
Came back, second half.
Even though they didn't run the ball very much at all in Tennessee.
They were down a lot of games.
Right.
And, they'll try to obviously establish the running game again early on and often, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. Johnson, he has a lot of pressure. I would expect him to come back. I don't know if he's going to be the Chris Johnson he was.
Right. See, I was never that high on him anyway. He had a monster 2008 as a rookie, and everyone just fell in love immediately. I said, hold on here. Defenses are going to adjust in year 2, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
His rush is over 20, I think, trimmed down from 20 down to 2. Basically, he didn't have any long runs after that because defenses were able to key in on the box. He's got a terrible quarterback situation in Tennessee ahead of him. I know Locker's the heir apparent. He's looked all right so far in the preseason, but he's still going to be a second-year guy. He's small to begin with. He's got, some injury issues with ankles. The list goes on. Is he a top 5 or a top 10 player? I don't know.
Not on my list.
He's certainly probably a number 1 or at least a number 2 on your depth chart. If you owned him.
Yeah, for sure. That's who he is.
But I think he's been overvalued in leagues. Again, if you're in a redraft league, a 1-year league, I'd pass at least in the first round. If you could steal him maybe late in the second round, something like that.
Let's look at his numbers real quick while we're on him to touch base on the player. 1,047 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns. He averaged 4 yards a carry. That's the big thing right there. 4 yards a carry. Not bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's not in the threes, whereas a warning sign. And he had 418 yards receiving, which is low for him. He usually has done a lot. It's
still pretty good for
1,500 yards
right
around there. 4 TDs. Yes, TDs were low, but he did have a decent season. Yeah, he didn't have a season
after a slow start
where he was drafted in most leagues in the first round. I'm sure. He didn't have that. You didn't get your value picking him last year in the first round, but he had a decent year. So Michael Turner's next back with Atlanta. Keeping him.
Yeah. Although, buyer beware there, too.
Yeah, he's another
same type of situation. A guy with way too much traction on his tires, so to speak.
Yeah, he's another guy that I think is on his way out, and I think that, Jacquiz?
I don't know. Yeah, Jack.
I don't know if he's the solution there, but he will get
He's a scat back, third down guy.
He's going to get more carries is all I'm saying.
This is the Fantasy Champion Show. We're on Facebook at the Fantasy Champion Show. The phone number, 603-785-3542. And we're going to get to our callers, I believe, shortly, but we're going to continue this mock draft. It's the Players Club. It's a dynasty league. It's in year 11, and there's 10 teams and 10 keepers. So theoretically, your top 100 players or so are off the board, but the draft pool does include surprises from last year and, more importantly, rookies, and that has seemed to have been the trend so far in our mock draft order. 1 Richardson, 2 Luck, 3 Doug Martin, and here's 4 S-faced, a team with a lot of veterans, but I think some pretty good balance overall as we take a look at their wide receivers.
Yeah, and I think, go back to the running backs. Is Sproles a keeper?
No. Yes.
Yes, he has to be after the year he had last year.
Especially in that offense.
Yeah, he had 9 touchdowns, 7 receiving touchdowns.
New Orleans is going to find ways to score the football. Yeah. It'll be through the air, obviously, but they can mix it up, and he's a guy who can.
He had 6.9 yards a carry last year.
I believe it.
That's pretty.
First of all, he wasn't.
I didn't know that.
They rotate backs, and each back that they have in New Orleans plays a different role. And Sproles is the small guy, the speed guy, the guy who can get out in the flat, the guy who can get out there in a screen situation and just take it to the house.
86 receptions and a point per reception. Like, this guy was a beast.
A stud. He was a stud in our league, and that's not PPR at all.
That wasn't PPR. No.
Right.
We go to this guy's an interesting question. A lot of people, have heard a lot about him in the past week. Cedric Benson signing with Green Bay. Is he go to be a keeper now?
That's a good question. Obviously, James Stark's still there. They brought in Benson as kind of insurance, I think, for Starks. I'm not sure how high, A, Green Bay is on Starks, or B, what the situation there is anyway in terms of a pass-first offense. The Packers are going to chuck the football. We got the phones blowing up, and we're going to pick up a phone call here. This is the Fantasy Champion Show. And we are live with Nicole from Goffstown. Nicole, are you there? And if you are, thanks for calling.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
What's on your mind?
I had my football draft this weekend. I'm in a keeper league. We keep 10 players.
Okay.
I had the 5th round pick, and I picked David Wilson. What do you think his numbers will be like this year?
Oh, that's a good question. Bob, you want to start with David Wilson from the Giants?
I think that David Wilson, he's a small back.
Yeah.
And you know how we feel about small backs here. I think he's going to have some opportunity this year. Bradshaw, they don't really have anything else, anyone else that's impressing. I know that in camp right now. Ware doesn't look too good. I would say he's decent. Where did you pick him, Nicole?
I picked him, I had the 5th pick in we keep 10, and then I picked him in the first round.
Okay. Right, so it's similar to our draft as well, which we've been explaining to our viewers. Now, why did you pick David Wilson, Nicole?
Well, I'm a big Giants fan, first of all.
Ooh, don't mix fantasy and team fandom. That is rule number one.
That's a little bit got to do with it. And I was taught by you, Nick, over the years, actually, that you need backs. You
do need backs.
Running backs. So I wanted a running back in the first round, and I needed one. So I have McFadden and Chris Johnson, and I was looking for somebody else to get in there.
Good stuff. Well, Wilson, you could do a lot worse, I suppose, and I think he'll shake out somewhere in our draft towards the end of the first round, but we'll get to that later on. Nicole, thanks for calling, and thanks for listening.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
That's Nicole from Goffstown, a Giants fan, apparently, and joining us here on the Fantasy Champion Show, live on Facebook at the Fantasy Champion Show.
Figures our first caller would be a Giants fan. They seem to be all over the place.
They pop out at the most unexpected times, apparently, as well. By the way, phones now back open, 603-785-3542. But let's get back to our mock draft. Again, this is for a Dynasty League, 10-team, 10-keeper league, rookie-heavy in the drafts traditionally, and so far, at least to our predictions, holding true to form. Richardson, Luck, Doug Martin, and then the S-faced on the clock.
We got his receivers real quick. Calvin Johnson, keeper, obviously. Best wide receiver in the league. Eric Decker, I know he drafted him last year. He's high on Decker. He's a keeper.
And I'm high on Decker, too.
Yeah,
I was hoping he would be available.
I like Eric Decker. I think he's going to keep him. That's one thing about this owner. He does not really mess up on his keepers.
Right.
You know what I mean? He keeps the 10 that he should keep, and that's, a lot of people's first mistake when they go into drafts. They don't even keep the right 10. I see it all the time. I'm in many leagues, and unlike yourself, who you think that one league
I'm a one-team guy.
Yeah, he likes to, which is good. I wish I was like that in some ways, but I'm not. But anyway, so we go back. He has Andre Johnson, who's looking, for a lot of production from this year compared to last. I don't think you can get any worse than what he did.
Well, because of the injury.
Because of the injury, yes.
He only played, 5-6 games?
Exactly. He still produced all right, though. 500 yards receiving.
Yeah.
He's
a beast, though. And again, a lot of times in fantasy, you got to look at the athlete themselves.
Yeah.
Because good athletes are going to make the best of a tough situation. And believe me, situations could be a lot tougher than they are right now in Houston, because Houston's going to put up some points.
They can run the ball.
They got a good quarterback, and again, with a healthy Andre Johnson,
you don't need to rely.
Andre Johnson will return to top 5 form if he's healthy this year. Yeah. No doubt in my mind.
Oh, for sure, he's an awesome. If you can go out and trade for Andre Johnson right now.
That's why
his value.
He's got depth at wide receiver. This team.
Yes, he does.
With Calvin Johnson, Andre Johnson.
The
Decker.
Johnson and Johnson. He has 3 Johnsons. We call him the Johnson, and Johnson. He loves those Johnsons. But yeah, that pretty much rounds out his keepers. And Nick, I'm gonna say who I think he picks just because of who he is. I think he's taking RG3.
Wow.
With Vic being hurt, I could see him doing that.
Well, I don't think Vic's gonna miss any time.
He's not, but he's like that every
going
week.
To be hurt. Right.
You don't think Vic's going to play 16 games? If you think Michael Vick is going to play 16 games,
no, I didn't say that.
No, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the viewer. Call me up right now, and I'll make a bet on that because I don't think.
No, I don't think there's anybody, even in Philadelphia that would say he's going to play 16 games.
There are some Philly fans that probably think he will play all 16 games.
Either though, but he's still got Cam Newton there.
Yes. I just see him. He drafted.
And by the way, Newton slowed down too.
Yes.
Yeah, he drafted
Newton last year, so he does like the rookie quarterbacks, and especially that style. Look at his roster. You know what I mean? RG3 would fit perfect with these two.
But doesn't he need to upgrade at the backs?
He does, but who's he going to take right now at that pick?
See,
Is
I
he
don't know.
Going to take Wilson with the Giants? I think that's too early to take.
Yeah, I think that's too early.
So I think his best value, best player available, I don't think he's going to take another receiver. I think RG3 is his pick.
Well, you mentioned the injury concerns with Vic. Wouldn't those same concerns apply with Andre Johnson, the guy we just praised? I mean, he missed a lot of...
Yep.
So if he goes down, and you mentioned Megatron being so reliant on him, then who else does he have after that? Just Decker.
Decker, yeah. And
So
He
maybe
has Holmes, Malcolm Floyd, and Damian Williams.
I think he keeps Holmes.
So he might keep Holmes, even though I'm not high on Holmes.
I'm not. Well, I think he's a good receiver.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's in a good spot there with the Jets. This is the Fantasy Champion Show. Our debate continues here. Join the fun at 603-785-3542. Our mock draft continues here, and let me give you this: if it's not RG3. I think he goes for the best overall player on the board, and here's a guy in Denver opposite Eric Decker who might make the difference, and that's Demarius Thomas. Great athlete, I think in his third year, right?
Yep. And
is he that young?
Yeah, that's the big year.
Guy who can obviously show the big playability. We saw what he did in overtime in the playoffs when they knocked out the Steelers at home in Denver.
That was awesome.
In the first round, broke an 80-plus, I think it was an 88-yard touchdown run to win the game, which is pretty significant. Plus, you add Peyton Manning. He's the number one receiver with Peyton Manning. I think he's better than Decker. He's better an athlete than Decker.
I think Decker is going to...
You think Decker's going to have a bigger year than Thomas?
Thomas, yeah.
Okay, well, why wouldn't if you're
I would. I agree with you on that 100%.
If you're S-faced, would you double up, so to speak, and take? Because here's another common problem that drafters run into is that I've already got a wide receiver on this team, so I don't want to have two on the same team. Doesn't matter.
No, because you can play them both, but you don't have to play them both.
You don't have to play them both.
Play the hot hand.
Play the hot hand, or if one guy gets hurt, the other guy's guaranteed to get more looks his way.
Yeah, and his value goes up. It's a win-win situation.
Yeah.
It's just not running
That's
back.
why I think Demarius Thomas is, in our league, the best wide receiver available, number one.
Definitely.
And Hardy...
could take him. I agree with you on that 100%. I also, the wild card, definitely RG3 could be a surprise with that pick. I wouldn't put it past Hardy.
I wouldn't either. This is the Fantasy Champion Show. Our mock draft continues. A 10-team, 10-keeper league. It's technically a dynasty league because it is year 11.
Yes.
And so, again, in theory, if you're in a dynasty league or a keeper league, you know what we're talking about. The top 100 off the board to begin with. So this resulting draft order, or our mock draft, very rookie-heavy, as usual. So Richardson we have going first to Autumn Wood. Andrew Luck to Smell My Mustache. The stage 5 clingers take Doug Martin of Tampa. 3 rookies in a row. And then what do we decide here at 4? Demarius Thomas?
Demarius Thomas.
Okay.
Pick, yeah.
So 5, back to the clingers. Now, you say, how does a team have 2 picks in the top 5? Well, it's simple. In a dynasty league, you see trades for draft picks. Teams, it's like in real football, real baseball, pick your sport. If a team midway through the year is drowning, has no hope to make the playoffs, what do they want to do? They want to sell. They're sellers. They want to put themselves in a position by acquiring draft picks to have a better shot and an advantage from draft day forward next year. Yeah. So what do the clingers do out of the playoff hunt? They make a big deal late with a playoff contending team in the ZERPs. They swap first and second rounders, and here now the clingers have the 3rd overall pick, who we think he'll take Doug Martin. Yeah, good move, by the way.
I commend him on getting the draft picks, especially it's so hard in fantasy sports to actually, put in the white flag. You think you're in it to the end, but...
But you and I have done that as well.
Yeah, I do it all the time because I'm a firm believer. There's a point in my season, I say in the beginning of the year, this is when, not a fire sale. I don't believe in fire sales, but this is when some key pieces to get me some nice draft picks the following year, and it works out most of the time.
Right. So the clingers made that kind of a move last year. They take Doug Martin. We went over their keepers. Yeah. Looked like they needed a back. They took Martin, got that there. Where does he go at 5 now?
He could be...
He's quarterback heavy now. He's wide receiver heavy. He's still probably...
I wouldn't be surprised if he took another running back.
Now, I think this is where he takes Wilson.
Wilson, yeah. He will take Wilson. It's probably the easy pick as far as, the one where if Wilson does not pan out to what people might think he's going to be, hey, he had to pick him, I think, here. He's the best rookie available at this point.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about him. My concerns being, again, he's undersized. I know Ahmad Bradshaw's not the biggest guy, but he's at least probably 210, 215.
And we know Bradshaw probably won't last the whole season. He's had troubles playing.
Right. So by default, and he's got some explosiveness. Again, he's fresh. He's young.
He's one of those guys that he's going to do well in the beginning of his career. Don't expect a long, productive career. He's going to probably have to settle into some sort of role down the road.
Right. I think he can help you this year, maybe next year. He's still on a team that can score some points with the Giants, which is always good. And, again, I think that's kind of an underrated virtue of fantasy sports is that
he can catch the ball too.
Right, but a lot of fantasy owners sometimes just fall in love with the name of the guy, and they don't take into account what situation he's in, a.k.a. what team he plays for, and whether or not that team can routinely score some points. And I think Wilson is fortunate to be with the Giants in that regard.
Yeah, let's just give one little tip here for some viewers out there. If you can get, you're in a first-year draft, okay, you're drafting from scratch. The NFC West, I would say some teams go grab some stars from there. They play the Niners. Besides that,
Seattle's got a pretty good
they got a good defense, but I'm just saying, notoriously, look at Steven Jackson. He's excelled over the years. Larry Fitzgerald's excelled over the years. Seattle really hasn't had much. Gore has ripped it up over the years. I'm talking about their big offensive players. There's some other weaker divisions, but look at the strength of schedule, too. Any tip where you can get an upper hand, it's worth it. It's an advantage.
Yeah. 603-785-3542 is the phone number. This is the Fantasy Champion Show. I'm Nick Anastos. This is Bob Morin. This is our maiden voyage here, the new studios, breaking it in here at Castle Hill Media as we continue our mock draft, the 2012 Fantasy Players Draft. That's right around the corner. We are excited, and we are breaking it down here. So 4 of the first 5 picks, rookies, not surprising, and again, sticking to that historical script.
Yeah, I think that normally the first round, like you said, the script, first round is mostly rookies, besides like Thomas, the guy that had the big year the year before.
Right, out of the blue.
He'll be taken in the middle to later of that round. There might be 1 or 2 guys like that. Second round, we're going to start seeing probably a few more veterans, I'm sure.
Right, and that's where the guesses start to become a little more wild, so to speak. Find us on Facebook, by the way. We're live each and every Wednesday on the Fantasy Champion Show. This is where it gets interesting, the Smooths. Now, here's a team. This guy seems like he's on the doorstep
he's a waiver
of the playoffs.
Waiver wire, baby.
Yeah.
Cruz and Donald Brown.
Yeah. But historically, he's been in the league now since 2004. He's made the playoffs once.
Yep. Lost the first
but
game.
It seems like he's had some hard luck. Like he'll finish 8-6 above 500, good enough to at least tie for that last spot, and then via tiebreaker or something like that, he gets in, and again he gets out. And I'm sure there's a kind of a hard luck owner in your league as well that can relate to James Savoy and the Big Smooths.
We call him Frank Costanza. Oh yeah, he's exactly like Frank Costanza.
But let's look at his roster. Again, I think top heavy would be an accurate description.
Yeah, he's got some guys. He's got like probably
questionable quarterback.
6 or 7 guys that we know we can pick probably as keepers.
Let's just rifle them off.
Yeah, we got
obvious names.
Tony Romo with Dallas. Is he keeping Joe Flacco? He traded for him last year.
I don't think so.
No? Okay, so we got one in Romo. Sean Green with the Jets, he's keeping. Ryan Matthews, San Diego, he's keeping. Mark Ingram with New Orleans, keeping. Donald Brown?
Keeping. Brown a starter now. I go ahead and keep him.
Jacquizz Rodgers?
Scat back.
Tim Hightower.
Now there is
traded for him as well last year.
Now, what should we advise our viewers when considering the Washington Redskins and Mike Shanahan and that guess who type backfield situation?
Well, we got Tim Hightower, injures a lot.
Yeah.
Injured a lot. Roy Halou, injured right now, is actually questionable to start the season.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got our boy Evan Royster there, who I kind of like. Evan Royster, I think he's.
I like him too.
He's our type of back.
I like him too.
He's got some size. I think I said it on our other show.
He's a Shanahan guy too.
That he's a guy that I think could excel. He could be like one of those, that Mike Bell that comes out of nowhere type deal. So, I think that it's a tough situation, a tough decision for for the Smooths to make.
Coming up, we'll take a look at the Smooths roster, continue to identify their needs, and then we'll see who they take. This is, again, the Fantasy Champion Show. It's a mock draft special, and we'll be right back after this. You're listening to the Fantasy Champion Show on Facebook at the Fantasy Champion Show. All right, welcome back inside the Fantasy Champion Show. Our mock draft continues, and let's just get a quick recap again. This is a Dynasty League, Year 11, 10 teams, 10 keepers. In theory, the top 100 players are going to be off the board. And again, that's a important thing to remember for all our viewers who are not necessarily used to the Keeper League, the Dynasty League. That's for more advanced and experienced fantasy owners.
Yeah, we're taking basically the top 100 players. See you later.
Yeah,
it's tough, but with the closed waiver, like we touched on earlier, makes this league very, very interesting and more strategy than I think a lot of other leagues.
Right. And just to note here, and we failed to mention this, which is amazing, this is also the first year in our league that we are going to have IDPs, individual defensive players. That's another rarity, I'd say, in terms of the norm. The norm is team defense / special teams, more advanced, more experienced. You see both sides of the football. You take individual defensive players. They have not factored into our draft so far, but we expect at some point over the course of the first 2 rounds, there'll be a defensive player selected.
I don't know, unless you're picking one.
Well, I'm always a wild card, aren't I? 603-785-3542. We invite you as well to enjoy and indulge and include yourself in the conversation via the telephone, 603-785-3542. This is the Fantasy Champion Show. I'm Nick Anastos. This is Bob Morin, the debut episode at the studios at Castle Hill Media. Recapping again, our mock draft, which is right around the corner. The real deal is around the corner on Sunday. We're having some fun here, slicing it up for you. Again, it's rookie heavy, and that's as expected in a Dynasty League. First overall pick to Autumn Wood, Trent Richardson, Cleveland Browns. Not much more to say. Best rookie, period. Definitely best rookie running back, and probably at least a top 20 overall fantasy running back this year in 2012.
Yeah, that's what people are hoping. Right now I've seen this guy ranked as high as 4 in the running back position, which I think is absolutely crazy for a guy who's never even seen the field.
Right, that's extreme, but he is talented.
20, I think.
He's big.
I agree with that 100%. But I think your prediction saying he's a top 20 is a you're not.
Right, because Cleveland's not very good.
Yeah, and we
offensive line needs a lot of work.
Peyton Hill has had the big year there, but they're different backs. We'll see how he adjusts to Cleveland. That's
different quarterbacks too.
Yeah, exactly.
So Richardson 1 to Autumn Wood is the team that had the top overall pick. Smell My Mustache, notorious flamboyant owner. Number 2 takes Andrew Luck, another rookie quarterback. Likes the rookies. Likes to make a splash. He's been telling the media that he's going to take Andrew Luck, so that comes with an asterisk by itself. Because
I know firsthand.
Yeah, Bob got spurned a few years ago in the first round as a result of Mr. Colonel Daniels' antics. Yeah. So anyway, we have Richardson 1 to Wood. Smell My Mustache takes Andrew Luck at 2. The Stage 5 Clingers, who own 2 of the next 3 picks, we'll take Doug Martin of Tampa Bay. 1, he's the second best rookie running back, and 2, Mr. What's his name?
Wilson.
No, Martin. Mr. Martin is teammates with LeGarrette Blount, who is also owned by the same owner. So handcuff situation, second best rookie running back, and best probably rookie running back on the board at that point, behind Richardson. So there you go. Number 4. S-faced, and they take Demaryius Thomas.
Yep.
And again, kind of a wide receiver handcuff position, although there's no such thing as a wide receiver handcuff. There's certainly 2 wide receivers on the same team. You and I are pro that.
I would have to put a little asterisk next to it. I do like it when there's a quarterback named Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, the top 10 quarterbacks of the league. I don't like it if it's out in
Seattle,
Jacksonville,
right.
and you have Blackman and Laurent Robinson. Not so pretty, but
In this case,
yes.
And again, we went over the roster. We went over some of the needs. It makes sense, I think. Best player on the board, I think, as well. Demaryius Thomas, number 4, to Team S-Faced. And then 5, Stage 5 Clingers back on the clock. And they take another small, by the way, rookie running back by the name of David Wilson with the New York Giants, much to the delight of our earlier caller, Nicole from Goffstown. This is the Fantasy Champion Show. Let's continue. Team number 6, or the 6th team, the Smooths. We said Tony Romo, not much behind him at the quarterback spot. Sean Green, and injured Ryan Matthews, heading up the running back situation. What else?
We got, we went over the backs. We got Victor Cruz, who we picked off waivers last year. Unbelievable season. He's keeping him, obviously. Larry Fitzgerald has been a mainstay on this team since
day one.
League, And then Jordy Nelson, a draft pick of his last year, good pick.
So you mentioned those 3 names, and right there, that's the strength
solid
of the Smooths.
We haven't even mentioned Jeremy Maclin.
Right, another good.
Or Brandon Lloyd, who he's going to keep.
Yeah, so there's 5 solid wide receiver keepers. If I'm owner James Savoy, I don't draft a receiver. Period.
Those are his keepers right there.
I don't draft a receiver the whole way. You got
Hightower is not being kept.
You got 4, 5 guys at the receiver spot, solid like that.
Yeah,
forget it.
He's got a solid wide receiver core. His running backs have a lot of question marks in my mind. So with this pick,
it's got to be a back.
We need to go running back, and you know what? I could even see him going for a quarterback if he wanted. Why not?
Now,
he has Romo.
But who's the best quarterback available? RG3?
It'd be RG3 at this point.
Now, again, RG3, rookie in Washington, going anywhere in average draft positions from the 12th guy off the board in a one-year league to all the way to 20. Now, he's going to have increased value in our type of league, a dynasty league, because you can keep him forever, in theory.
Yeah, you can.
So he's got to be the quarterback if
he goes
the Smooths go in that direction.
He could go running back.
See, again, he was on the doorstep last year at 8-6, didn't get in.
Started off slow,
didn't get into the playoffs. Finished, though, I think 8-6, right, or 7-7.
He finished something like that.
Not below 500. So on the doorstep, I think instead of an investment pick, which RG3 I think would be behind Tony Romo, you add a piece, and that would have to be, I think, a running back again because the receiver. Or what about tight ends? I mean, tight ends are deep this year.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna. He does. I know he does.
Is 6 overall too early?
I think it's too early
for a tight end.
I know some tight ends he does like that could
Gonzalez?
pop up in the second round. I think he likes a sleeper tight end, not a sleeper, but a guy that is too early to take in the first round. But he's a big fan of a Tennessee Titan.
Cook,
Jared Cook. Yeah, he's high on Cook. He drafted him in another league, which I call the JV.
He's an athlete.
Yeah,
he's
continuing that trend with the big tight ends who can run, big guy who can run, probably a 4.7 or something similar to that, which is unbelievable for a guy that's 250 pounds, 6'6", probably, maybe even more.
Welcome to the 21st century.
He's probably 270
The future is now. Yeah.
He's a big boy.
This is the Fantasy Champion Show, by the way. Find us on Facebook at the Fantasy Champion Show. It's easy to watch. It's a live link. All you got to do is click. Video pops right up and right into your living room here at 603-785-3542.
It's not too hard on your eyes having this studio. Everything's nice. The lights are perfect.
A couple of lovely faces.
Exactly.
Talking some fantasy.
It's going to be fun. Don't skip Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy tonight and come tune in to us on the internet.
Especially, again, early in the season. So many fantasy seasons are decided, whether you know it at the time or not, in the early weeks.
Homework.
That's where homework is huge, and that's where avoidable mistakes can be bypassed if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, all it really takes is an hour or two. Just come get familiar with the players out there, your system, if you're in a keeper league, and just really sit down for a couple hours. You're going to go in much organized to your drafts than you probably have been in the past, and you might pick up a win or two more than normal.
Here's my question to you, Bob. And by the way, Nick Anastos, Bob Morin, Mike Currier holding it down behind the camera. Who's the best at this point in our draft? Who's the best running back available? Again, your 3 rookies that we think are going to go early are already gone in the first 5 picks.
Yeah.
And that's, again, Richardson, Martin, and then Wilson.
It's tough because at this point, you might, if there is a veteran out there that is worth drafting right now, you might want to
that 6 to 10 overall range in a dynasty league is good.
Because you're a team usually in this position. Usually in this position, you're a team that, like Nick's touched on, has just missed the playoffs. So you're a couple of those big starting pieces away. A veteran might be better than a rookie.
The middle of the first round for owners, usually those teams that are on the doorstep.
Yeah.
So again, like you just said, add pieces as opposed to investments. In that case, what about a guy like Toby Gerhart?
Yeah, see, I think Gerhart...
A lot of questions with AP's knee. Gerhart is a great runner, by the way. This guy could be a starter on a lot of teams in the league. He's a moose. He runs fast. He runs hard. He'll drive his shoulder through your chest. We saw him go over the century mark repeatedly last year after the all-day injury.
He reminds me of one of your former teammates on the South team.
Mayu?
Oh, yeah. He reminds me exactly. Obviously, they're different sizes, but as far as our lives go, when we were younger, he was always that big, pounding guy who, like...
That you didn't want to tackle.
No, he should have been a fullback, but he was the best runner on the team as far as...
Right, because nobody could tackle him.
Because nobody could tackle him. That's exactly how I see Gerhart.
Yeah.
And he's going to pound it, north-south guy.
Yeah, and Minnesota's going to run the football.
And he could have some opportunity. Peterson still hasn't played. They said that he's not going to play in a preseason game, even though he wants to. And they don't even know if he's going to play week 1. They might hold him out. What's the sense of rushing a guy out there if he can take an extra week or two, especially with an injury like that?
Right.
With a guy like that, a franchise player, and Adrian Peterson.
Right. He'll play at some point in September.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he'd be on the PUP list.
But if Gerhart performs from the gate,
you'll see a committee situation right away.
He'll see more carries for sure. So he has to go out there and
so do the Smooths see it like that?
That's a guy I could see him taking for sure. But I could also see him slipping into the rookie. He's gotten burnt with first round rookie running backs in the past.
Well, Gerhardt's not a rookie.
No, I know. I'm saying he could go with a rookie though instead of Gerhart. But I think
who's left there?
I'm a big fan of Robert Turbin. I don't know
of Seattle.
I don't know if he's a first rounder.
He's a big guy, right?
He's a big guy, and we all know Lynch can't stay out of trouble. And he's awesome. Lynch is unbelievable, but there are a lot of doubters out there.
Right.
For this year, if he can repeat the success that he had last year.
And again, at running back, guess what? Durability is always going to be an issue.
Yep.
No matter what. The guy could be the healthiest guy on the planet. He's one hit away from blowing out his knee, and that's the end of it. Yeah. So
backups are crucial.
Absolutely. So you think he takes Turbin there?
Well, I'm just throwing out some guys.
Would you rather have personally? Would you rather have Turbin or Gerhart?
I'd probably take Gerhart. He's a safer guy, but I'm just trying to think of the team as far as who we know. And there's also Kevin Smith wouldn't be a bad pick. I don't know if he's a first rounder, but
guess what? Somebody has to run the football in Detroit, and that is a high profile, prolific offense that is going to they're going to throw it all over the yard, sure. But guess what? They're gonna score touchdowns as well in all kinds of variety.
When he was in the lineup last year, he did really well. So.
This is the Fantasy Champion Show. Find us on Facebook every Wednesday night at the Fantasy Champion Show. Nick Anastos and Bob Morin getting our feet wet, I suppose, for this weekend. We've got a huge fantasy draft coming up. Dynasty draft, 10 teams, 10 keepers. This is our mock draft, and you can see the order, by the way, right here. Richardson, Luck, then Martin, Thomas, Wilson, 4 or 5 rookies. And then again, debating here, you and I, what we think the Smooths will take at the number 6 spot. So let's make a decision here and move on.
We're gonna go with I think we'll go with Gerhart. That's probably the safe one. Safe bet, I think. Gerhart will suffice. Out of all the guys we talked about, I think you made some valid points, and I think that's probably the best for his team right now. Or RG3. It's either RG3 or Gerhart. But for our sake, for the draft, we're going to put down Gerhart.
Because Gerhart is the piece that can help right away as opposed to an investment with RG3. He has Tony Romo. He needs help in the backfield. He takes Gerhart. That being said, RG3 slips no further to 7. And Autumn Wood, who had the first overall pick, we touched on him at the top of the show. Worst record in the league last year. Total rebuild mode. Has some pieces. has Richardson, had the first overall pick, and he adds RG3. It's perfect.
I think it's perfect too. You got arguably some people will say RG3 is the best rookie quarterback in the draft.
Sure.
So you could say arguably that he has number one running back and quarterback from this draft class. I'm not saying that. I think Luck's better, but we'll see.
What do you think, Luck or RG3? 603-785-3542. We'll put you right on the show here. And Bob and I will answer any questions, weigh in on any debates, in addition, of course, to providing you with our Players Club mock draft coverage, the 11th annual draft this weekend down in Quincy, Massachusetts. Okay, first 7 off the board now. First round continues to roll here in our mock draft, and here's a team that is another traditional power, the Commission's team, Commissioner Dave Homestead's Big Sleep. And
he has a lot of...
he's got 2 rings and several runners-up. Again, that guy in the league who is in the championship every few years, always drafts well, is veteran-heavy.
Yeah, well, this is a guy that
Homestead's teams are veteran-heavy.
Every year, too, he has a problem at keeper time. He's always letting go of 2 or 3 guys that are a hard decision for him.
But that's because his team is deep.
Yeah, his team is good.
His team's always one of the deeper teams, veteran-heavy, but he invests well as well. And let's take a look at his roster here, Bob.
Yeah, we're going to go right now with quarterbacks. I have 3 quarterbacks on this list out of his 4 that are keepers in my mind. Eli Manning.
Yep.
Peyton Manning.
Yep.
Andy Dalton.
Dalton's got to go.
I know.
You can't listen. You're right. And here's why. You keep 10. You can't keep 3 quarterbacks.
No.
2 is enough. 3. You get the third guy, later. That's an absolute disaster situation. Is when he would play anyway.
You think he why would trade one of those guys before the draft? Maybe.
I don't think Dalton has much value in a 10-team league. He's not going to start.
I don't think he would. Yeah, you can't trade him as a part of your 10 keepers, and
maybe as a package to a bottom feeder.
Cheap. Yeah,
right.
It'd have to be cheap.
Right. So Dalton is out, therefore available obviously in our draft.
Which is going to be...
But here's another side note that we found over the years, is that in dynasty leagues, quarterbacks, for whatever reason, don't tend to go in the first round. Why is that, Bob?
Yeah, not really, because usually with a 10-keeper format, everyone has an established quarterback.
Yeah.
That's a
big part of it.
Top 10 quarterback. That's
the biggest part.
One reason. Another reason, I just don't think that the rookie quarterbacks do well their first year, unless you're Cam Newton, Andy Dalton.
Right, so there's no real
new, yeah.
And you only play one anyway.
Exactly.
There's no veterans really available.
We do 5 points for a touchdown. A lot of leagues do 4.
Yeah.
That's another reason. But it is a pass-happy league. I'm surprised more don't go. But like you said, I think that's the number one thing. You only start 1.
Yeah. 603-785-3542, the phone number. Nick Anastos, Bob Morin, welcoming you aboard the maiden voyage here for the Fantasy Champion Show at the studios at Castle Hill Media. Moving on, again to recap, Richardson goes 1 in our mock draft for the Players Club Keeper Dynasty draft coming up on Sunday. Wood takes Richardson 1, best overall running back available, best rookie as well. Smell My Mustache takes Andrew Luck, rookie quarterback. 3, the Clingers take Dave Martin.
Doug.
Did I just say Dave? And that slipped out live, huh? Doug Martin. And we should know because we know Doug Martin.
Yeah,
Dougie goes 3 to the Clingers. S-Face takes Demaryius Thomas. Love the situation there with Peyton Manning in Denver. 5, the Clingers back on the board. Another rookie back off the board, and that's David Wilson of the Giants. 6, the Smooths take Gerhardt, kind of a necessity piece, strengthen a backfield, help get over the hunch into the playoffs. Passing on RG3. By the way, all that's with an asterisk. If RG3 goes in the top 6 picks, I'm not surprised at all. But we have him at 7, back to the Autumn Wood, teaming up with Trent Richardson, rebuild mode for Autumn Wood. 8 is where we are now, and that's the Big Sleep.
This is a team right here that has huge implications on the first round as far as the people who he keeps and lets goes, because there are some guys here that I think, depending if they're kept, like we have Kenny Britt. Is he keeping Kenny Britt? Does he have the room to keep Kenny Britt?
He's at the bottom of he's on the fence of the 10 keepers for sure.
Exactly. Well, let's count them down. We have Eli
and Peyton.
Those are definites. Maurice Jones-Drew. Ray Rice, Marshawn Lynch. We're at 5.
Okay, so he's back heavy right there.
Yeah, and
he's got 3 of probably the top 7
Thomas
backs.
Is not being kept, so he's going to be in the free agent pool. He could keep him, but the other 2 backs he has on his roster besides Pierre Thomas, Tomlinson and Terrain, both free agents, they're gone.
Right.
So we'll have 5 with a star next to Pierre Thomas.
Right.
Sean Jackson, kept.
Yeah.
We have Rob Gronkowski, will go to the tight end, kept. Greg Jennings, kept.
Yeah.
How many we have?
8.
We're at 8. We have Sidney Rice, I don't believe, is a keeper status.
Probably not. There's nobody throwing the ball in Seattle.
Well, no, my boy from Wisconsin is going to be throwing the ball.
Maybe,
on
yeah.
Friday night.
Yeah.
I watched a lot of Wisconsin ball last year, and he was a.
You think he's a pro quarterback?
I like him. I don't know if he's a pro. He's going to be one of those guys. Listen.
By the way, the NFL is slowly turning into college football.
It is
because you have 9 rookie starters or first year, second.
Yeah.
Over the last 2 years, including the guys this year.
4 or 5 rookie starters week 1. They're saying. I think
right.
4.
That's unreal.
Whedon, Tannehill, RG3,
and maybe
Andrew
Wilson
Luck.
Luck. Yeah, so that's at least 4.
That's 4. I thought there was.
And then you add the rookie starters from last year: Dalton, Newton.
Yeah.
Who else?
It's crazy.
Yeah. So you got 6, 7 at least first or second year quarterbacks. That's almost a quarter of the league.
It is like you said. It's going that way. It is college.
All right. So
we'll go. We have Jabbar Gaffney's not being kept. Fred Davis, I don't think he can keep him. He has Gronk. So Kenny Britt and Sidney
Pierre
Rice,
Thomas.
Or Pierre Thomas.
I think it's Britt and Thomas.
Britt and Thomas?
Yeah.
That's who he's keeping. And
all right, so who does he take?
Who
does he take then?
I think he takes the best available. I think he's going to take a rookie receiver, maybe one of the flashy guys, either Blackman or Floyd.
Yeah, I think he takes Blackman. I think Blackman, first of all, is the real deal.
Yeah.
We remember what he did at Oklahoma State. We remember, first of all, what Des Bryant did before him, and then he comes in and tops Des Bryant, which is...
that's a feat in its own.
He's an athlete. He's got a wingspan. He can sprint. He can fly.
Does it all.
Only drawback is, and again, this is off-field stuff, and from a fantasy perspective, who cares? You don't have to deal with the guy in real life, so,
doesn't matter.
Right. So forget the off-field stuff. Problem is the quarterback situation in Jacksonville.
Yeah,
but again, this is a dynasty league.
Hey.
Quarterbacks come and go. Talent doesn't. This guy goes, I think, 9 in,
I agree.
or excuse me, 8 to sleep, and that's a steal for that late in this kind of a draft.
Very happy with that pick. You know, you say that with the who's going to be throwing it to you, but you never know because look at last year, Andy Dalton and A.J. Green. People probably said the same thing about A.J. Green last year, and look at the season he had as a rookie.
Right.
So
that's a good point.
You never know.
All right, so we'll pencil in.
I think that he'll be real happy.
We'll pencil in Blackman at 8 for the big sleep. Moving on, and by the way, this is the Fantasy Champion Show. Nick Anastos, Bob Morin. Find us Wednesday nights on Facebook. Get the live internet thing going on at the Fantasy Champion Show. Mock draft continues. Number 9.
Let me announce this team.
Okay.
It's
all you.
The most hated team in the league.
Oh, see, I don't know. I like the Golden Dome. Me and Lance always find a way to get business done.
No, I don't mind Lance at all. I had a little
in the baseball league.
It's rivalries with him in the leagues, but he's good for the leagues. And
by the way, this is the team you took down.
I did
in the championship game.
I was the champion of this league too, so hence the Fantasy Champion Show. You're taking advice from a couple champions,
right? A former champion.
Yes.
And the current king of the hill.
In my first championship game, Nick's first championship game,
two of us.
He beat me.
That's right.
And that was what year? 2004. 2004.
Yeah. So it's been a while. I've been looking to add the second one for about 8 years now. It could be this year. But anyway, Golden Dome. First of all, they're
stacked.
Unquestioned the deepest team in the league right now. They went 12-2. Won the playoff game and then lost to you. So they had the best record last year, which counts for. But
nothing. You don't get anything for that.
Right. There's no trophies for second place, especially in this league.
No entitlement here.
Right. Not everyone gets a trophy, believe me, in this league.
Participation awards. Not in this league.
This is not Bedford Little League.
Get the hell out of here.
Right. So, Golden Dome. Where do we begin? Stacked deep. There's probably about legit 12 keepers on this team. Guess what? You can keep only 10. But either way, he's good to go 1 through 10.
We got Stafford, obviously with Detroit. Roethlisberger, I bet he doesn't want to keep him, but he has to.
I don't know if he has to.
No, he doesn't have to.
See, I didn't have him keeping him, but
okay,
continue.
Okay, good. Then he doesn't have to. I wouldn't. I don't like Roethlisberger, but whatever. He is what he is. Matt Forte, keeper. LaShawn McCoy, keeper. Fred Jackson, keeper.
Yeah.
DeMarco Murray, keeper.
Yeah.
We'll go right there. That's 5 keepers.
And those are 4 legit backs,
yeah,
including Jackson. People forget Jackson had this league on its back last year before he broke his leg.
3 right here.
He was in line for a rushing crown.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Those 3 guys: LaShawn McCoy, Fred Jackson, DeMarco Murray.
And you didn't even mention Matt Forte either, did you?
Yeah, I did. I said Forte first as one of his keepers.
Yeah, there's another guy who was blowing up. Dual threat through the air on the ground.
Oh, yeah. So
ready for another big year with the Bears.
And they're all guys that I think are still going to do well this year.
Yeah.
They're not above
They're not flashes in the pan.
No, they still have a few years ahead of them. Fred Jackson might be getting a little older, but he doesn't have the time, the service time as far as being a full-time back. Isn't he 31?
Right, but he came into the NFL late.
That's what I mean. I'm saying he doesn't have he is an older back, but he doesn't have the service time as a full-time back.
The tread on the tires, so to speak.
Exactly. He still has plenty left.
Plus, again, as we and this gets back to our kind of the future is now point that we made earlier. The past was at 30, you're done if you're an NFL back.
Yeah.
30, you fell off one way or the other. Not sure that's the case anymore. You had Thomas Jones doing it, LaDainian Tomlinson.
No.
Again, athletes are bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah, and you know who they are.
Right.
The guys that are going to do that. Steven Jackson is a perfect example. I think that guy still has
3 years at least.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And people are, we talked about this in the past. People try to use that against them in trades and
here's another thing that factors into that is that you're seeing more backfield committee situations. So you're saving wear and tear on your running backs.
Yeah.
Hence, they play longer.
Well, these guys are possessions to these teams, and it's like, a piece of lawn equipment. They're going to try to get the longest life out of these guys.
Sure.
And any way you can do to preserve it is what they're doing, like you said.
Right. So, the whole big fear of age 30,
doesn't happen.
Take it with a grain of salt, I think, in 2012. This is the Fantasy... Let's start over. This is the Fantasy Champion Show. I got a mouthful of something over here. I'm Nick Anastos. I got Bob Morin to my left. We're breaking down what we think will happen in our upcoming draft. This is a mock draft special for the Players Club, ESPN League, Dynasty League, Year 11, 10-keeper, 10-team league. First round, we're at the tail end of it here, awaiting the Golden Dome's mock pick at number 9 overall.
I think to finish off his keepers, Vincent Jackson, Wes Welker, Des Bryant, Mike Wallace, Jimmy Graham.
Yeah. Like I said, he's the paper champion.
Yeah,
he's the paper champion right now.
Yeah.
Maybe
it's Mike Williams at Tampa Bay, who I didn't
there's no room for him. Right. Exactly. So he can go anywhere, basically, is the point with this pick.
Whatever he wants to do. He wants to take the best available defensive player. Go right, he can.
That's
behoove him right now, I think, to do that.
I think that's kind of what I was thinking he does. I think Patrick Willis of the 49ers goes here.
Yeah.
Willis is the best linebacker in the game, and this is a point per tackle on the best defensive team. This is for year 1 of the IDPs, by the way, for our 11-year league. This is the first time we're experimenting with IDPs. That being said, it's a point per tackle league, so linebackers have a little bit of a boost. And again, when you're that stacked on offense, I think at this point in the draft, there's offensive players that are available that will be available maybe in the second round. I think he says, you know what, I'm going to take my pick of the litter for IDPs. By the way, he was a big proponent for the vote to switch over to IDPs. He likes IDPs. I think Patrick Willis goes here 9 overall, and the first ever IDP defensive player drafted in the Players Club.
Go figure. It goes to the paper champ, too. Gets the best defensive player. So that's how it works, usually. And, hey, good for him. He put himself in a good position. His team is solid 1 through 10.
Yep.
And now he's adding arguably the best defensive player available. So, yeah.
603. 785-3542, the phone number. Give us a call. We'll pot you up, put you on the show. Again, 603-785-3542. This is the Fantasy Champion Show. Nick Anastos and Bob Morin. We do it every Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. And you can find the link live on Facebook at the Fantasy Champion Show. Rounding out the first round of our mock draft that is as it continues. First 9 picks in the hole. And here's the team back on the board. Your favorite, Smell My Mustache. They took Andrew Luck, according to the two of us, with the number 2 pick, help out with the quarterback depth, and now I think he goes back here.
He could go
running back.
He could go running back, or I could even see him.
Maybe this is where Robert Turbin goes,
or maybe this is where maybe another defensive player goes.
So that
starts the trend.
Ambrose starts the trend at 9 with the Golden Dome taking Willis. So who's the next off the board if he goes defense? And I'll entertain that notion.
I
think he might take Kevin Smith and really blow some people away.
Well,
if he keeps best, yeah. Right? He drafted Kevin Smith back in the day, in 2008.
He likes Kevin Smith.
And again, Detroit, such a
I'll tell you, if he doesn't take Kevin Smith there, he won't be around at pick 20.
Yeah,
I'll be taking him if he's.
So do you think he goes Kevin Smith or do you think he goes defense?
I think he's going to go offensively. I think the only reason why we saw defense in the first round was because he had the luxury, Lance Harbor,
of being stacked.
Had the luxury of being stacked, and really not a player on the board that he's going to regret passing up. I don't think at that point.
Right. Okay, so therefore,
I would say he's going to go.
Colonel Daniels goes who?
He could go with
with Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think Kevin Smith's the obvious choice for him.
And again, makes sense having already a Detroit running back on the roster.
And it's his second pick, and he's going to be in the mindset where this is kind of an extra.
And I think he has another one coming up at 12 overall.
Yes, he does.
So he can. I think he takes Smith there. He's got me sandwiched as I lead off round 2, and we'll do that on the other side. Second round, right around the corner here on the Fantasy Champion Show. Back in a moment on the Fantasy Champion Network. All right, welcome back inside the Fantasy Champion Show. Nick Anastos, Bob Morin with you. Round 1 of our mock draft 10-team, 10-keeper Dynasty League in the books. And take a look here over my shoulder. Recapping briefly, Autumn 1 takes Trent Richardson first. Smell My Mustache with the second overall pick. Keeps the rookie trend going with Andrew Luck. Stage 5 Clingers. Third overall, take Doug Martin, another rookie running back from Tampa Bay. Team S-faced with the 4 pick. Best overall player on the board, we think, Demaryius Thomas in an improved situation with Peyton Manning and company in Denver. The Clingers, second pick in the first 5, and they go with another rookie, and another rookie running back at that, David Wilson for the Giants, 6 for the Smooths. Who did we settle on there? I forgot to write it down.
For the Smooths?
Yeah.
He was taking
Gerhardt.
Yep.
Vikings top running back at the moment, and certainly a committee situation, I think, upcoming with Adrian Peterson. 7, RG3. And Autumn Wood, I think, cashes in here. They get Richardson, and then they get RG3, 2 promising rookies in a rebuilding situation. 8, veteran team, deep team, the Commission's team, Dave Homestead, and the Big Sleep go with a rookie, Justin Blackman.
Yeah.
Get some youth, get some another receiver, playmaker in there.
Best rookie receiver, we think.
Yeah, and a guy moving forward that can be a real star as early perhaps as this week. Number 9, the first IDP ever taken, and that is by the Golden Dome. The paper champions, deepest team in the league at this point, proponent of making the switch from team defense to IDP for the league. He takes Patrick Willis, we think, of the San Francisco 49ers. And then a moment ago, we gave our final first-round mock selection, a team with 2 picks in the first round, Smell My Mustache. They take Andrew Luck at number 2 overall, and then
Kevin Smith.
And then Kevin Smith, the Detroit running back, on the second phase of his career, kind of a comeback tour, and he's got Javid Best of the Lions as well. What happens in round 2? Well, you make the pick. We come back next week. The real draft will have happened. Bob and I will have plenty more to discuss. We'll see how our predictions panned out.
It's going to be fun.
And then all that and more as regular season action right around the corner here on the Fantasy Champion Show. Bob, some closing thoughts as we conclude what was a great debut episode here at the studios at Castle Hill Media.
Oh, I think it's great. The first show, I think, went very well. And as far as fantasy sports in general go, everything's on the up and up. All the chatter around the office, I talk to my coworkers, I talk to people I deal with.
Everybody's getting in fantasy mode.
Everyone's getting ready. The drafts are starting up.
It's great.
I had a draft last weekend. It was fun. We order the pizzas, get a few beers going. It's a good time of the year.
Another point is it gives you a chance, if you've been in some of these leagues for years like we have, to reconnect with a group of guys that share a bond and, whether or not you agree with fantasy football or not, it's a good way to reconnect with people as well. And
let's roll on your jersey, too.
That's right.
First time every year. Right. I'm amazed every year when I still fit into it.
Everyone's allowed to dress like a 10-year-old, at least for a couple of hours with fantasy draft parties. That just about does it. Thanks to Nicole from Goffstown for calling in, our producer for putting it all together, Mike Currier of Castle Hill Media, my partner Bob Morin. My name is Nick Anastos saying so long. Tune in next time on Facebook, Wednesday nights. All you got to do is go to Facebook/The Fantasy Champion Show. The link is right there, and we are cooking. Until next time, I'm Nick Anastos. So long. This has been a presentation of The Fantasy Champion Show on the Fantasy Champions Network.